Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to have a talk about Communist China, the complete history of Canada, and actual trade deals by who, when, and at what time, and what the real scenario is from 2002, the history, to 2020. It's going to take a few minutes for people to get logged on, and it's fairly early here. It's 6 a.m. my time, but we'll see who comes on. I know it's not very active in the morning, but nonetheless, I want to do the video. I had a good rest and I'm ready to do it. I've had a lot of messages from a lot of people on this topic, and of course Rebel Media, Toronto Sun, everybody's put out their stories on this, on Trudeau and Squamish and everything else. So I'm going to go into the complete history of absolutely what is. I see some people, the early morning risers, are active, so we're going to get into this now, and I've taken notes, so don't worry. This is going to go chronological, and it's going to go into some pretty big detail. So first things first, it all begins in 2002 with Canada's Nortel. For all of you who don't know what Nortel was, it was a Montreal and Quebec company, very old, from the 1800s, did extremely well in global communications, one of the strongest telecommunications companies in the world. We had risen to such world prominence, a real Canadian company with real prominence throughout the global scene. However, from 2002 to 2012, our relations here with China had expanded exponentially in dealings, and that allowed China to get very, very close to our companies. And of course, Nortel, being one of the greatest communication companies in the world at the time, by a tremendously small country, Canada, who had invested a lot in university, tech, research, all of it, the R&D, and was leading on the global scene, got literally hijacked by China. They started stealing the technology. That's where we get into Huawei and 5G, because guess what, everybody? By the end of 2012, Nortel had already developed the 5G technology and the equivalent to Huawei. That's an absolute fact, okay? Almost 10 years before anybody else had even got to that level. That was done by Canada. Canadians, pat yourselves on the back. It's a great thing, right? Unfortunately, leading up to that 2012, you can all look this up. It's historic. It's logged in with U.S. military. It's in with the Pentagon. And those communications that were done from 2007 all the way up to 2012, leading up to Nortel's demise, USA had communicated that to Stephen Harper, told them, warned them, told them you're being hijacked, China's eroding your system. He chose to ignore that. Now, this is easily defined for any of you, and you can go on the United States government websites. You'll find all of this clearly there. It's in history. Stephen Harper chose to ignore it, and in fact, after the global reset that we first experienced, the 2008 and 9, Stephen Harper did massive bailouts. He borrowed just like Trudeau's doing now. He did a Series 1, $300 billion, just as Trudeau plans to do for the next 3 years of $1 trillion. Harper did that once, and he bailed out a lot of companies, and during that time, he advanced the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He signed it. He didn't remain into power long enough to see that ratified. Justin Trudeau absolutely scrapped it in 2017. Okay, so that's the history. Trudeau scrapped Stephen Harper's Trans-Pacific Partnership. It did not end the destruction of Nortel. Nortel was absolutely decimated, and China came out with Huawei, and of course now the 5G network system, okay, stolen from Canada. So, what happened? Trudeau scrapped the TPP in 2017. He ran the CPTPP, a new Trans-Pacific Partnership that took the Kanzuk partners that Stephen Harper likes, Aaron O'Toole likes, all in globalist agenda. He signed on with a partial of those, 6 countries ratified. Both UK from Kanzik and China are trying to get into that right now. I don't know how that's going to play out. Nobody knows, but it's front and center right now. So we're going to get into more here. Absolutely the worst trade deal with China done in all of Canadian history was the 31-year locked-in deal done by none other than Stephen Harper in 2012, just before Nortel's great fall, after the United States said, "Don't do it. This is what's happening to you." Harper ignored it, and in 2012 he ratified FIPA, that's Foreign Investment Protections Agreement, 31 years with China. I know this agreement very well because I'm an Albertan. For those of you who follow me, I know you're all Albertans and you understand this. China's Communist Party set up an office immediately in Calgary, Alberta. To this day, the Communist Party of China's oil company, state oil company, it's the Communist Party. They bought into our Athabasca oil sands. I'm not going to get into those specific places here in Fort McMurray, all the way down through Athabasca South on 771. But many of you watching know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not here to alienate any business ventures or other people watching me who actually work for these companies. They're Albertans. But that was the beginning of the rise of the Communist China Party here in Canada. And absolutely, it was first implemented right here in Alberta. I know this for a fact, in 2012. So what Ezra's rolling out here with military in Squamish, 4 Chinese military, where Canada sent our military over there for training exercises. China did here. That was just done with the last 2 years, 2018. Yep, officially. And four Chinese military came into Squamish in Ontario. And why? Because it's outlined in the FIPA deal signed by Harper, ratified, put into practice by 2014. It's an absolute law we're locked into for 31 years. It has seen our Northwest Territory take on the Communist Party and investments, protections, to get all kinds of security stuff. Many of you have reached out over the years. The gold mine, yes, it's all Harper era. He did produce the most gold, but he also sold the most gold in Canadian history. I've gone through that in one of my other forums for the gold reserve, and David Fierro, he runs that for trying to get back to the gold back standard. I've written much, I've published much in that Facebook group. For those of you who don't join it, go check it out. You'll see I've addressed all these things over the last 4 years. This isn't secret. I know that Ezra's jumping on a release document saying, "Oh, look, Trudeau's in bed with this." Well, guess what? Not half as bad as Harper was. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, Canada. This has been going on for almost a decade and a half, realistically, when you add into Nortel and Stephen Harper's dealings and his ratified trade agreement, a 31-year binding agreement. Trudeau can't just get out of. There's lawsuits involved. There's corporate amalgamations. Our colleges and universities are flooded with Chinese students loyal to the Communist Party. This is no secret. It's been going on for a very, very long time. They're in all our R&D. They're in all our professional labs right across Canada. Throughout COVID-19, China's got their hands into all of Canada's labs, technology, and everything else. That's because of FIPA. In FIPA, there's protection so that Chinese executives from the Communist Party don't have to be Canadian citizens, don't have to be loyal to Canada whatsoever, can be placed in Canada. They have limits of their time, whatever, but they can run the show in all of these corporate projects, in education and institutions right here in Canada. It's firmly protected and there's no getting out of it. Even the pipeline deals, we couldn't even get out of those if we wanted to because there's liabilities to communist China already. You hear about all these things that other countries are going through where China's bought them out. This is what's been done to Canada, and it's a 31-year deal as of 2014. You can thank Stephen Harper for that. Like I said, he tried to put the initial Trans-Pacific Partnership through. Nobody wanted it, not even conservatives. It's part of the globalist socialist reset. Harper was in there like a dirty shirt, even when his own party didn't want it. Only specific people. It was hugely unpopular with Canadians. He ripped it through, and nobody batted an eye about it. No Canadians have. Albertans certainly haven't. Like, not everybody. I mean, separatists, I know all of you do, but mainstream Canadians and Albertans don't know any of these concepts really because of the massive news propaganda that's produced to make it look like Justin Trudeau's some kind of radical problem here, when really the radicalism occurred almost a decade ago and it's just expanded there since. And honestly, I hate Justin Trudeau. I hate him with a passion and what he's doing to Canada. But ultimately, he scrapped that original TPP agreement. He's got the CPTPP agreement that does not include China, okay? So look at this, everybody. You'll see Harper is the actual binding power of what brought China into our midst and amalgamated them into all of our industries. Worse being academia, into our primary sector, and of course into military through that security agreement. You can all look it up. FIPA 2012. It's on the government website. Trudeau, does he love China? Sure he does. He loves anybody who promotes his globalism and reduce Canada into a country that isn't really a country, a post-national state, as he calls. Of course that's who he is. But Harper is too. And we have to stop. Ezra's blinded by his hatred towards Justin Trudeau, and I promise you, my family, most Albertans have a lot more than Ezra to hate going forward with Justin Trudeau, but I'm not so hateful as to be blind to the real history, the real truth, especially what the states warned us of, especially what happened to Nortel. Even though I despise Upper and Lower Canada, Laurentia East, Nortel was a great global giant grown right here at home, a national monument of innovation that Canadians did, and we were monumental out on the world stage as a tiny little country. And Stephen Harper gave that away. Stephen Harper aided and abetted China into getting in so deep where they ripped us off, stole it. They're a big, powerful country, and you'd be insane to sign a 31-year deal with a communist country. Harper did that. Trudeau runs with it, but honestly, not as bad as what Stephen Harper did and implemented. That's the truth. All these things that come forward are no big secret to most Albertans. I know Canadians, like I said, are really blinded to this, and this whole news story about 4 Chinese training in a joint exercise with Canada in Ontario Squamish, because that's part of that automotive deal too, in the FIPA deal and the security. It's all about Chinese executives having that military with them in their security forces. Unbelievable, right? It's all in FIPA. And just so you all know, we're liable for so much to China now going forward. We can't escape for at least the next 26 years. Unless we go to war with China, that's the only way out. Sad, right? Sad reality. Get this shared out, everybody. Everything I presented to you is 100% accurate. I've never lied. I take for granted a lot of times that people don't know the history, especially when new followers come on. for all of you new people, and I know I get lots of new people come on all the time, if you haven't dug deep and gone back in my 4-year history, you're going to have to. Just do a name search, pick a topic, and you'll find I've addressed it several times in tremendous detail. As I go forward, I can't keep revisiting the details of this stuff because it becomes so repetitive, and you'll see my followers who've known me for a long time start to fall off because they go, can you stop going back over and over and over these things? And it's hard because new people always come on and people leave, but that's the reality. Get this video shared out this morning. I don't hate Ezra Levant. It's just he's blinded by his hatred, and if he really did an in-depth news story, you would see that this has been a problem from the Harper Conservatives, ratified, implemented, changing Canada forever since early 2000, well, mid-2000s, getting into the early 2012 period. That's true, and that's why we lost Nortel. And again, if you don't believe me, contact the United States government. There's publications, you'll see it in the Pentagon, in press releases of the past, where they reached out and said, don't do it. And they didn't listen. And we lost Nortel. They got Huawei. They got 5G. Look what we're going through right now with extradition with the 2 that have been detained in China. And yes, on the 6th, Justin Trudeau scrapped any military exercise involvement. Whether he was trying to do that before or use that as a tool, or he was bound by FIPA, we'll all find out, but the story is definitely not what Ezra Levant is publishing. It's for Chinese training exercise military. That's it. That's Squamish, and it's in Ontario. It's not at any other military bases across Canada. It can't be. So, Battis will never let that fly. If you don't get UK signing on to it, we're not going to see that go through in our military, I'm telling you. Not in any permanent position or posting of Chinese troops. You think USA would allow that? You think they're that dumb not to have the intelligence in place to catch Canada doing some kind of double deal like that? People, you got to get real. The document's not blacked out. It was grayed out by none other than Aleslev, the liberal flip-flopper. I went through the news story. Sorry, guys. But these aren't top secret documents. This is all old news. Really, really, really old news. Sad? Does it make me angry? Yes, it does. But like I said, get it shared out, everybody. Get it out there. This is the real news for all of you, because that's how it's supposed to be. The whole story, not a smudged 3-month version of a story that is absent of all history and absolutely distracts you from the absolute truth of what's happened to your country by all political parties involved. Okay? That's the truth. Get it out there.